All right, everybody. We're going to get this party started. I know a lot of us have a lot of business to do. I wanted to just let everybody know the reason I'm doing this is that I feel like Leadership Camp is one of the better get-togethers that we have as Keller Williams. And I like getting together with other leaders and other people to mastermind, because as my guest is going to say here in a minute, one of his favorite sayings is, none of us is as strong as all of us. And we all have strengths that we bring to the table, and we can all help each other grow. And I think that if we can get together on a regular basis, that we can share wins, we can share losses, and we can share strengths on how we can actually get better as a team. All right. So my guest today is Josh Spitzin, who is the team leader of Keller Williams Beverly Hills. And he has so far this year to date has grossed more than 70 agents. So I wanted to get you on here, Josh. I wanted you to answer some of the questions that I have. And then if anybody has questions, what I'd like you to do is put it in the chat, raise your hand, and I'm going to try to get to the questions. This is a new thing we're doing, so we'll see how the bugs work itself out and see if we can do this as smooth as we possibly can. But are you unmuted, Josh?
I am, I believe. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I can hear you. I can hear you.
All right.
Well, first of all, you were my big fish that I'm like, I'm going to see if I can get Josh on. If I can't get Josh on, I'm going to go to the next person. But you committed right away. Makes me super happy. I think there's going to be a lot of value here. So what I'd like you to do, can you tell me a little bit about who you are, where you came from, how long you've been a team leader, and we'll start from there.
Yeah, so grateful to be here, Frank. Always happy to help. Always feel like coming from contribution is the way to create value for others, and you get it back in spades over time. So that's definitely my philosophy toward everything I do. And I think we can all, as you say, learn from one another, and none of us is as smart as all of us for sure. So I've been with KW now for 11 and a half years. I came into the brokerage world as a sort of leader slash owner. So I never sold real estate. I was a former investment banker, and then I was an executive with Equinox for many years, both in New York City, and then owned several restaurants, and then somehow found my way into the brokerage world. I've always recognized real estate as a great vehicle to building wealth and passive income. So I started to invest in real estate right after college, close to 30 years ago. But was never really interested in the brokerage world until I met a gentleman named Rob Eigner about 12 years ago, who was the team leader at Beverly Hills, ironically. Then we really connected. He piqued my interest. I was going through a career transition. He then introduced me to my now really best friend and business partner, Paul Morris, who really was one of the founding people launching KW here in LA over 20 years ago. And it gave me an opportunity to learn a lot more about Keller Williams and really the core values and the culture and just how to work smarter. And that really resonated with me as a former corporate executive and business owner. So I never align myself with anyone or anything unless it's something I'm really passionate about and feel like really aligns with my values and my principles. Because I think one of my superpowers is my energy and my drive and my conviction. And if I don't believe in something, I obviously don't have that, and I don't have that level of authenticity. So after several months of research, Paul hired me to launch a new office in Cerritos, which is a small sort of city in greater LA. They were looking to launch a new KW office there, and that became me. I had never sold real estate, as I said, and I knew very little about Cerritos. I was living in Santa Monica at the time, which in many ways is a different world than Cerritos for those that don't know LA, although they're not that far apart, probably like 35 miles. But, depending on the traffic, anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour and a half. First of all, there was a business model in place. So I think that's critically to have a model and systems so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. And KW has certainly created that as a company, and certainly for a team leader. So I just sort of, I consider myself very coachable, and I just followed the model. And I know how to naturally connect with people and create value for them, where I started this conversation. So I was just relentless about going. Literally, I cold called every agent in the greater area. Like I had, Broker Metrics, which is like a database system we have out here, which I think is in other places in the country. And I just started to connect with every agent and said, hey, you know, I'd love to have a cup of coffee, learn more about one another. Are you open and receptive to that? And that's largely the same script I use, you know, 12 years later, to be honest with you. It's very casual, but I say it with enough confidence and conviction. And at the end of the day, it's all about learning and relationship building. It's not about recruiting, because, you know, how often do we hear I'm happy where I am? And half the time that's true, and half the time, and probably more than half the time, that's probably not true, but it's a natural defense mechanism that people put up. And then you know, you don't want to resist that, because then they'll become defensive. You know, love happy and successful people. This is not about recruiting. This is simply about an opportunity to learn from one another and build a relationship. You know, as we both recognize, this is a relationship business, and the more quality people we know, the more opportunities we create. And inevitably, we can learn something from one another. So
Let me
that's
ask you a
basically how I go about it. It's pretty.
Yeah, let me ask you a question there, because
Yep.
that, you know, calling somebody, asking to get together for coffee, just kind of meet each other, like that seems like a very innocuous conversation. But I want to ask probably the fear that a lot of team leaders have asking that, like, how many calls did you make and how many times would you get shut down in that conversation? And would you follow up after you got shut down?
Yeah, so I'm well known and pretty for being sort of relentless, I hope in a good way. And I followed up and followed through, and I was rejected so many times I don't even know where to count. And my philosophy always, I believe in myself. I'm probably, and I know this is a bold statement, and I consider myself very humble, and anyone that knows me, I think, will confirm that. But I'm also confident. I'm probably one of the most disciplined, consistent people you'll ever meet. And I think my track record shows that, and I really believe that. And when I say that, it all holds me accountable to making sure I do that. I believe in myself, so I believe that I can be and would be the vehicle for their success. So when I follow up and I'm persistent, I never feel like it's imposing on anyone. I feel like it's actually in their best interest, and my job is to help show them that if I can, right? So yes, tons of rejection, tons of follow up. I mean, the number of people I've recruited that has taken me a year, 5 years, whatever. I play the long game. It's one of my core beliefs, with urgency. That's just, success does not happen overnight. It's all about consistency. So whatever I commit to doing, I'm going to do with consistency, and therefore I'm particularly judicious about what I commit to, because you can't commit to everyone or everything. But I made a commitment to being the best that I could be as a leader within Keller Williams, and I knew recruiting was the linchpin to all of the opportunity that gets created within KW. So I was like, I'm going to get in relationship with as many people as I can. I'm going to show them value. I'm going to create great advocates and lead by example. And a big part of my recruiting is obviously great referrals from my agents who believe in me. And you know, I'm very judicious about creating, I wear it on my wrist, you know, talent attracts talent. I don't know if anyone can see that. Environment matters. It's like a slogan I came up with like 10 years ago, just very naturally. And I'm passionate about it. Like, great, smart people want to be around other great, smart people. And that environment, as the leader that I help create, with getting the right people to align and believe in themselves and have trust in one another, I would argue is the key to everything I've ever done within Keller Williams. Every office I go to, I built that office in Cerritos, and then I took over the Beverly Hills office 6 years ago. Quite frankly, it's a lot easier to launch a new office than to take over an existing one, in my opinion, but everyone has different skill sets. Beverly Hills was a mess when I took it over, and it's been the #1 KW office in profitability and productivity for the last 4 years. And that was not the case when I came in 6 years ago at all. But I believe in myself, and people believe in me, and then we all, you know, elevate one another. I'm a connector. That to me is the key to it all. And I move real fast, and I lead by example, and I'm very intentional about creating boundaries, because I know how valuable my time is, and I know how valuable everyone else's time is. So I'm not, you know, I'm not a people pleaser. You know, I care for sure, and I'm very empathetic, but you can't please everyone, and anyone who tries to is doomed to fail whatever they do. So when people and my agents want my time, because I'm speaking to team leaders or leaders here, I'm very intentional about creating boundaries, because if I just let everyone in anytime they want, I'll get nothing done. So if you want to schedule time with me, send me a text message. We'll get it on the calendar. If it's urgent, I'll do my best to make it happen as quickly as possible. And so I can't impress that upon everyone enough, because I watch team leaders, and I'm an OP as well. Like, that's a major challenge for all of us, myself included. But when people know that they need to come with you with something that's important and they need to schedule a time unless it's absolutely urgent to do that, it helps filter a lot out so you can focus on, recruiting and coaching people and setting the tone and building the culture.
Yeah.
So sorry, I could keep going. So I can
No, that's great. No,
so I'll let you
that's
ask me
gold.
questions because I'm going all over the place.
No, that's gold. So what I hear you say, like a lot of what drives you is it's really just mindset, right? That's what I hear. But let me ask you this question, because I think this negativity and dealing with negativity and rejection is what holds a lot of us back. How do you deal with that? Like when you get people like, no, 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 like you're calling people every day and you're getting no, 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 no. Like, how does that affect you? And how do you get past that? Because you clearly get past it. Like, how do you get past that? And what would you recommend to people who let it affect them more than it should?
Yeah, I mean, like I come back to like I believe in myself.
Yeah.
Because I've put in the work and I've practiced and I've done it with consistency and I'm always learning based and I believe it's their loss. I mean, that's just truly what I believe. And it doesn't mean that I'm for everyone and no one's perfect for sure, but it's never personal. How could it be? I know who I am. So how could it be personal? Right? I mean, it's just that. So it is what, if you call that mindset, yeah, it's definitely a mindset of believing in yourself. And I know I've got a willingness to do what others aren't willing to do. And that to me is how you become great at anything, right? You got to be willing to do what others aren't willing to do. And that comes back to what I said, being disciplined and consistent, and then just planting the seeds and connecting. Like, so when I go to a recruiting appointment, I'm doing a lot. I'm asking the questions and I'm listening. It's all about creating a connection. And it's not, it never starts with business and sometimes takes a while to get to business. Where'd you grow up? Tell me about your family. How did you get into real estate? Like, through those questions and understanding where they came from and what got them to where they are now helps you understand how they made decisions, helps you understand what's important to them. They're going to give you all of the answers through those questions.
100%.
When you ask 100%. The questions and you truly listen and you truly are curious, the answers are all right there in front of you if you listen carefully enough. Yeah. And then once you know that, then you get a sense of like, where do you want to be a year from now? Where do you want to be 5 years from now? And then how can I be the vehicle for their success, right?
Yeah.
And I've got a tremendous amount of tools in my tool belt that I can apply to the individual, and everyone's goals are unique. So there's no like one right answer at all. It's based on that particular individual and where they are and where they want to go. And I know I have enough confidence in myself to know I've got all the tools in my tool belt to with almost anyone be that vehicle, with obviously my team and all that. It's very much a team effort.
Yeah, so give me that coffee script again really quick. Somebody's asking for it.
Which one? Sorry.
The one when you just reach out to people cold and you just
yeah, I mean, hey, this is Josh Spitzen. I'm the CEO of Keller Williams Beverly Hills. Do you have a moment? I always start there. First of all, I never want to like be imposing. I don't know, maybe these little things. Do you have them? Because I truly like, do you have a moment? I'm catching you off guard. I don't want to be presumptuous. I don't want to be intrusive. And almost invariably the answer is yes. And I also talk quite fast because a lot of these agents are high D and whatever, and I don't want to take their time. I've heard great things about you through mutual colleagues. I often say that whether it's true or not, because that helps, right? I wanted to see if you're open and receptive to grabbing a cup of coffee. I love to learn more about one another. And then I go in, depending on it's all how you handle the objection. And believe me, 90% of the time, no, I'm happy, I'm this and that. And quite frankly, 75% of the time I get the appointment. So 90% of the time the answer is no, and 75% of the time I get the appointment. I understand. I know you're happy, and I run. Look, and I leverage where I am now. I run a very large brokerage, very productive. Inevitably, one of our agents will do, if they haven't already, a deal with you. I'm certain we can learn from one another. The more relationships we have, the more opportunities we create. Let's sit down and it can be quick, and let's plant some seeds and see where it takes us.
That's awesome.
It's just very organic, and that's it. It's just how can we can learn from one another, and also just say we both, I always say this, we both understand that this is a relationship business, right? I mean, who's going to say no to that? The more quality relationships. I run a brokerage of 700 people, and a lot of them at this point know me or know of me, but that wasn't always the case. No one knew me at the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's good stuff. So I'm going to say something, because you mentioned about your superpowers, energy and drive. I'm going to tell you what I think your superpower is, because I didn't even know. And just for context for everybody, Josh and I basically fish in the same pool. And if you decide on Keller Williams, there's probably a very high likelihood that when I sit down with somebody, they're sitting down with Josh, they're sitting down with Joey, they're sitting down with Larchmont, Santa Monica, Beverly Hills, Hollywood Hills. Like we are
We're in
almost
close proximity.
very
Frank's
close.
3 miles down the road.
And so the one thing I realized is that TLs on a whole are not the best at communication. And I think that you are probably one of the better TLs at communication that I've ever seen. And with as much as you have on your plate, to me, that is super impressive, because I didn't know. So I bleed follow-up. Like I'm up follow-up, but I did not realize how much of an amateur at follow-up I am until I realized your follow-up game, which I didn't even know, because you never was like, oh yeah, by the way, this is what I do. I found out because I was interviewing somebody you were interviewing with, and the reason they decided not to go with you is because you were relentless and aggressive in the follow-up, put them off. And what that taught me was that you need to be more aggressive, you need to be more relentless, you need to follow up way more than you actually are, and you will lose people because of that. But if you don't, you're going to lose way more. And that's what I realized, is that the aggressiveness and the follow-up that you do is like unparalleled from anything that I've ever seen. And it helped me with my follow-up game, because like it's actually helped me grow my business, because I realized I'm competing against you. Like I need to try to go head to head as much as I can, but you have your systems on point so much, it's almost impossible. And the fact that when I text you and when I call you, it doesn't matter what you're doing, you always get back to me, like in a timely manner. And it's impressive because you are an OP, you are a TL, you have 700 offices. And for context, tell everybody how many people did you
700
recruit
offices,
last year?
700 agents, sorry.
700 agents. For context, how many people did you recruit all of last year?
I want to say 2. I pretty much average a minimum. I remember the 356 in 2022, I believe. And that's no indies or anything like that. That's just, blocking and tackling. And, I'm sure there were some teams in there, but nothing. We don't have huge teams typically. Their teams usually are 5 at most. And last year, I want to say I think I did right at 20 a month. So 240. I think I did 250 actually, to be exact. My commitment to myself is a minimum of 20 a month. And I've maybe, since I've been at Beverly Hills, like there's maybe, other than the first year, maybe there's been like 5 months where I didn't hit 20 gross.
Yeah, 15 is a bad month for you.
Yeah, correct.
Great.
And look, let me give you a couple other, so per what you said about the follow-up. So I am very persistent. I always try to put myself in their shoes. I think being empathetic and trying to look at things from the other person's perspective is critically important to building trust and building relationships. So I'm really extremely purposeful about that. And with that said, you're never going to please everyone. And I'd rather err on the side of being overly aggressive than not following up at all. And to find out that that agent left to go somewhere else, but because I didn't touch them, I lost that opportunity. So yes, there are plenty of people that have said that guy's crazy aggressive and blah, 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 blah. And there's probably only been a very few handful that I've lost as a result of that versus the number that I've gained as a result of that, that maybe were a little bit off put initially, but then really respected me over time. I can give you hundreds that said like, this guy's crazy aggressive, and they're now with me and they're some of my best advocates. Okay. So definitely yes. And you're never going to please everyone. And what I will say is that people that really do know me know I genuinely care. So they know it comes from a good place. And I think that's important. But I come back to always try to look at it from their perspective. And when they come back to you and they're in a bad mood, it's not personal. You don't know what's going on in their world. That has nothing to do with you, even though it feels like it's very much directed toward you. Let me throw out in the interest of time, and then I'll let you. I am very purposeful about social media and have been since day one. So I'm very, very consistent about telling our story on social media. I wasn't even on Instagram till like maybe 4 years ago. In fact, I looked back the other day and that's when I actually started Instagram, but I was on Facebook from day one, and I was very intentional about sharing the kind of environment and wins and recruiting in my office on Facebook with my slogans, environment matters, with my my thing. And that's just who I am. That's authenticity. That's no one telling me. That's just what comes out naturally. And I think when you're authentic and you have great energy and passion towards something, don't be afraid to show it. People are drawn to that for sure. So I'm very purposeful about that. And I'm very consistent. I pretty much post every day. And I'm very intentional also about acknowledging and recognizing my agents on social media and commenting on their stuff and all that. So it is in many ways my database. And when I meet a new agent or I meet not new to me, but not I am extremely intentional about connecting with them on Facebook and Instagram. Because then I can follow them and I can see what they're doing. They can see what I'm doing. I want them to see what I'm doing, and I want to see what they're doing. I'm very, very intentional and have been for years on that front. So leverage that, right?
Yeah.
I do my little point, which people were like, that's so cheesy and whatever. That just happened organically. Like, I don't know, a few years ago, and I just started to do it. And I'm like, I'm going to do it. It feels right to me. And now people are like, when they join my office, they're like, I want the picture with the point. So everyone was making fun of me initially. And now they're like, they're admiring it. And actually certain TLs, I forget, have like said, do you mind if I use the point? I'm like, by all means. Are you kidding me? I love it. Love it.
I have Joey Sakovich sitting in my office right now. We took a picture together. He's like, I'm going to do the point. I'm going to do the point. Like, dude, come on.
So just be authentic and be passionate about what you do. People are drawn to that. So the social media one's a big one. The other thing is for years, I've hosted a class on a consistent basis. And for me, it's about mindset, because that is really my passion. My purpose is building leaders. And I think leadership is 90% mindset. So it used to be called my power session in Cerritos. I'd have it every Monday and I'd show a video on, a guy that I would encourage everyone to sort of follow is Brian Johnson. If you don't, and he does synopsises of like mindset and leadership books. And I would play that video and then I'd have an open conversation that I would lead around how that impacts our lives and our business. It now morphs into something I do with my business partner, Paul. So we play off each other, but I do that now twice a week. And what I'm going to say to you is find a class that caters to your unique superpowers. That'll be different for everyone here. Teach it at least once a week. And it'll help build the culture. And it's a tremendous recruiting opportunity. So when they would come to those classes, any recruit, it would do 90% of the heavy lifting for me.
Yep.
So when I sat down with them, it paved the way. They already knew who I was. They knew how passionate I was, my principles, my values, and they had never seen anything like it before.
Yep.
So that
idea, and it's working out
to my recruiting. So whenever I coach a TL, I'm like, find something you're really good at and you're passionate about, and teach a class on it once a week with consistency. Again, play the long game with discipline, with consistency.
Yeah, I stole that idea and it's working out amazing for me. And I put it together with the 3-step system that I put together in my office, and it's just consistent to where anybody shows up, I'm teaching the class, it's right there, and it's a huge leverage piece. It's pretty
and
awesome.
Selfishly, it helps me become a better leader. So I get as much out of it as anyone else gets, believe me.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Is there any last questions before we let Josh go? I think I was going to say, if somebody dropped you.
Good to see you, Kier.
If somebody dropped you in the middle of a city that you've never been a part of, like, what would you do? And I think you did actually give us that answer, because the coffee appointment would probably be what you would do.
And I say this again with all humility. I feel very confident you could put me anywhere in the country and I will kill it.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
What are your key lead funnels?
My key lead funnels are really, I just get broker metrics and I start making calls. And honestly, I don't rely on my agents. I do get a lot of referrals. Don't get me wrong. I've never even asked for my own agents. Never asked. ALC never asked. They're proud of where they are, and I get a lot of referrals from that, but I don't rely on it at all. Focus on, like, again, I'm a huge believer, focus on what you can control, which are your actions, and be super intentional about getting in relationship with as many agents as you can, and pick up the phone. That's the best way, the most effective way to do it. We all have databases where we can see people's contact information, their productivity. Pick up the phone, come from curiosity, come from contribution, and just get in front of them and plant those seeds. like I never relied on like, you know, the new agent stuff. We definitely look, I'm in Beverly Hills. Obviously it's iconic. There's a lot of advantages that come with that have nothing to do with me. But just because we're in Beverly Hills does not mean that we're super successful. Again, I inherited that office 6 years ago. We weren't doing anywhere remotely on the recruiting and or profitability or productivity numbers that we currently are. And to be very candid, I overcome a lot of challenges around KW not being luxury enough, exclusive enough in Beverly Hills. So even though there are definitely advantages, there's a lot of disadvantages too that come with that. So life ain't fair. And what are you going to do about it? Right?
Right.
Make the most with what you have. And it's more than enough to accomplish anything you're committed to. So it's
Life's
all
not
about
easy.
the actions. We all have unbelievable tools and resources that KW has provided. And then what are you doing to leverage them and have them work in your favor? Because
So this
everyone
is
here
your
has
key
that
lead funnel
opportunity.
is what you're telling me. This is your
Oh,
key.
that's, I mean, it's honestly, and I don't endorse this,
Mhm.
no CRM.
Oh, man.
I don't endorse it. I coach agents to have it. So I'm being in a lot of ways hypocritical, but I would argue my CRM is like Facebook and Instagram because I am extremely intentional about that. And I use my notes and I've got my pipeline and I have a great business manager, Serena, who helps me with all that, but I didn't have her for up till a couple years ago, by the way. But I do now. And I live and breathe recruiting because I love it. So like I can recite like 40 people I'm working on right now, right off the top of my head, but I have it in my notes and I have notes around them and all that stuff. So my phone really, can I also say this? And again, I don't endorse this and everyone's unique. The only time I open a computer is on a Zoom meeting, which is probably once a week.
It's all this, right?
I don't open a computer, period.
Phone.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. That's good stuff. That's good stuff. You know, and I know you got to run. I know you're super busy. I really appreciate your time being here. And again, this is going to be recorded for everybody and I can send out the
And connect with me. It's Josh Spitzen, pretty straightforward on Facebook, although I have, 5,000. So that's why it's, Spitzen Josh, which is my last name and then my first name on Instagram. Connect with me there. Hopefully everything you heard and saw today is exactly what you'll hear and see on my social media. I also, my wife and my little boy, the dude, Max, is my superpower. I do a video with him every Sunday, Daddy and the Dude. And that's a huge inspiration for me, but definitely happy to help in any way I can. So always reach out to me directly if you have any questions and I can help in any way.
You know, that's something that
Frank, I really appreciate the opportunity.
That's one thing I just wanted to touch on is that you introduce a personal aspect to yourself on Facebook, which I believe connects you and makes it more relatable. And I think that helps you when you're creating relationships with people because you're known for the daddy and the dude. And it just shows you're a real person and that you are genuine. And I think that is so massive that a lot of leaders don't use their social media to tell their story. And you do it in such a great way. Last question.
Definitely true.
When do you wake up and when do you go to sleep every day? Like what's your...
I'm not like this crazy, I wake up at 6:30 and I go to sleep at 10.
There you go.
I'm very big on getting sleep. I'm a huge fitness guy. I work out every day. And I'm just very intentional about how I use my time and with whom I use it.
Yep. Awesome. Dude, thank you so much. I cannot tell you, I really grateful for you. And I'm sure everybody else here is as well. So thank you so much. I wish you the best. If you need anything, let me know, but I'm sure we're going to talk later.
Appreciate the opportunity, guys. Thank you.
All right.
Take care.
All right, guys. So that's our first team leader, Josh Spitzen. I'm working on another one for the next mastermind that we put together. Does anybody have any takeaways? Put it in the chat, unmute yourself. I would love to hear something that you have. But the one thing that he said that I think is super important is that he talked about telling your story. And there are so many team leaders out here, and I don't know who they are specifically, but I do know of a lot of team leaders that we don't tell our story enough. We're not on social media enough having the conversations. We're the CEO of our company, and we don't use social media at the level. Like if you're not into social media, that's great, but your company should be. So if you were the CEO of Jamba Juice, you wouldn't be like, well, I'm not going to use social media on Jamba Juice. You'd use social media would be used on Jamba Juice. You just wouldn't do your personal stuff. So I think that we as leaders have to get way better at telling our story. So all the agents out there in the world that are around us that we're trying to bring on board can see what we're about and what we're doing. That's the thing that I think Josh does really, really well. That's probably number one, and it's probably tied for number two, which I believe is the communication aspect of it. He is an amazing communicator. The fact that he's running multiple offices, he has 700 agents, his relentless follow-up, and he leverages himself with some staff, but he is very purposeful about doing communication at a level where most people would feel uncomfortable. And when I realized that, I had an agent come into my office and showed me the text messages and the emails that they would get from Josh. And I was like, that's crazy, but it works. And so I leveled up. I have I have a 65 touch program that I put on for my real estate team, and I've developed a 65 touch aggressive follow-up plan for agents. So I've learned over time that if you fall into my funnel, that, you know, I stop contacting you and one of us dies. That's the way that's going to work. And I just follow up, follow up, follow up. I've had people who I've never spoken to, I've just followed up with, contact me a year later and ended up joining my office. So I think the communication in the story part is probably a really, really valuable part that he talked about. Did anybody else get anything from that? Hilda says he's using the phone more than tech and winning in a big way. That's absolutely true. He basically, his phone is like an appendage. He is connected there. Can I share my touch plan? Absolutely. I will send it. I have everybody's email. I'll send out my touch plan and give you a rough draft of everything and how I kind of do it. And if anybody wants the recording, I'm going to email the link out for the recording so you guys have this. And if you know of a team leader that you would like to be a part of this, that we can interview, I would love to talk to them. I already have some ideas of some people. Some people are on here, which I haven't reached out to you yet, but I will, because if you're crushing at a high level in the team leader role, I would love to talk to you, because there's a tremendous amount of us that are out here that are not hitting the numbers. And I think getting together like this is only going to be a benefit. Like Josh says, you know, none of us are as strong as or smart as all of us. So what other takeaways did you guys get? I don't want to talk the whole time here. Anybody else have feedback?
Well, yeah, definitely. Josh said that he commits to doing one class a week.
Yep.
So I thought that was pretty huge. Now, in terms of that, I guess it would be more like a mindset class, not necessarily like how to get more listings or any of that kind of stuff. It seems like it would probably be more like a mindset class once a week. Right.
So it changes. So when he does it, it changes a lot, but it is absolutely mainly mindset. I stole his idea and I call it Elite Westside Coaching. And what I do is that I have a 3-step program for agents to make 6 figures in real estate. And so what I've done is that I've taken some of the elements that he did and I teach it on Mondays and Fridays. So I bookend my weekends with this. So there's always something happening. And it's more of like this. It's more like a mastermind that I go over a certain process. And then I ask people, where are you going? How are you struggling? What do you need help with? I end up having agents that are outside of the company being a part of this on Zoom, because we do everything on Zoom, and it's become a huge leverage piece and it's become a staple in the office. We went from having 4 people in to having 25 people in the class between in-person and Zoom, and it just keeps growing. And it's basically like a mind share. Like I don't know everything, and I know I don't know everything. So like, come help me learn about you and how I can help you grow, you know, for a servant's attitude, I guess, you know?
Yeah, like it.
Yeah. So what else? Anybody else have any thoughts or feedback from what you just heard from Josh? Because everything that you heard from Josh on here, that's who he is. That he's that way 24/7. And I appreciate his authenticity, because, you know, he is a beast, and he is very direct in everything he says and everything he does. And him and I have gone head to head recruiting more often than I would like that to happen. And I'll tell you, it's like fighting a bear. That's the best answer I can give you with that. But what other feedback do I have here? Thoughts and takeaways. And thank you for Hilda. I'm happy to put this together. I just wanted to get together with everybody as much as we possibly can so we could all help each other. Anybody else do what Josh is doing, or is going to implement something that Josh is doing? I would love to hear that. I know Emily's on here. She's probably recruiting somebody. I would love to hear if she got any takeaways from Josh, because she's right around the corner from him, 2 regions over.
I'm gonna say something again.
Absolutely.
I like the fact that Josh said that he has his mode. He sticks to the phone. You know, he's not really asking his agents for referrals. He's not asking the ALC for referrals. And we're all, as team leaders, we're always pushed. Oh, you know, get your ALC involved. Have them create a recruiting team and get your agent referrals. And you should be asking referrals every day. And it's nice to hear that Josh doesn't do that. But what he does is just consistently provides value to his agents on a weekly basis, and they're naturally giving him referrals. So it's nice to hear someone that's doing it at a high level that's not so consistently saying, "Oh, I get all these agent referrals, and that's how I'm hitting my high numbers." So it's nice to be able to hear that, because as team leaders, sure, you guys all hear it, that you guys should be getting agent referrals every day. You should be asking your agents for referrals every day. Your LC should be getting you referrals every day. So it's nice to hear that someone's not doing that and they're still performing at a high level.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And he is a beast, and he is basically the least techie guy that I know, and he is just on there constantly. So I see Emily unvideoed herself. So what did you get any takeaways, Emily?
Seriously, I am so upset. Well, I had a recruit walk in right at 11, right when the Zoom started, and it was like a top producer with a team of 5. They're signing up right now, and I'm like, oh man, horrible timing, but actually goes perfect with this call. I live on my phone, just like Josh said, and I don't calendar. I'm really bad about calendaring things like this. I should have known was going to happen today, and I didn't. Just out of the blue, just happened. So, I was talking to him and then listening to this at the same time. But what I love about Josh the most is he's 100% real and authentic, and that comes across in the way that he speaks. And as a team leader, I think we get told so much, like, what we think we're supposed to say and do every day. And like, that's just not real. And like, I don't use a CRM either. And that's horrible. And, but hey, I will be the first one that say, put them all into command, do the touches, do all that stuff. I'll be the first one that preaches it, but I don't do that. And I live through this, and I don't tell my story enough on social media, but my company does. And so I love everything that he said was so relatable. And so I thank you for putting this together, and I want the recording.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Absolutely. This is going to become a support group. Like, hi, my name is Frank, and I don't use a CRM. I feel like that's the way this is going to go. So moving on, like, I would like to maybe put together on the next mastermind something about telling our story better, because there's actually a framework on how you can tell your story. And I learned this from a guy named Sean Puri, who's like this millionaire tech guy, who talks about how a story is framed. And if you look at like rom-coms and most movies that are successful, there's certain components that stories have that you can actually take for your business, in your office, and your life, and actually structure it in a way that will actually gain momentum. So when you do jump on social media and you start telling your story, it's going to resonate more, and it's going to click more with people, because there are specific components, which I think is super fascinating. So the next mastermind is going to be 11 a.m. next Thursday. I'm going to try to make this a weekly thing if everybody's into it. I'll have another top team leader that is crushing it with over 100 recruits a year. That's consistent. Similar to Josh. I wanted Josh to be my big fish, and to be honest with you, I was shocked that I actually was able to get him on the first shot. And so does anybody else have any feedbacks, any takeaways, questions? I would love to answer any questions. For anybody who doesn't know who I am, I'm Frank Bernardo. I'm the team leader of the Keller Williams West Side office in LA, literally 5 miles from Josh's office. I've been a team leader since 2016. I've been a realtor for 21 years. Very few people that I know have been in longer than me. Joey, that's sitting in the office with me, has been a little bit longer than me by months. I recruited 93 agents last year. I was number 2 to Josh. I was number 1 sponsoring agents for the entire LA area. I was number 2 in net.
Y las que están en mi catálogo son estas.
Eduardo. I'm going to mute Eduardo there. So that's a little bit about me. The lowest I've recruited, I think, in a year is 80. The most I ever recruited in 1 year is 147. So that's who I am. And I would love to just hear from you, get feedback from you. Thank you. The new TL and the struggle is real. The struggle is real. Like, we all have bad months, and I'll just like, if I could, I can't show you the camera, but my ceiling in my office just fell in today. And I have an Equinox pool above my office, and my entire office is flooded. I had to shut down and cancel everything. And there's like dryers and people working outside this room right now. And my recruiting just went through the floor this month. So I recruited 10 last month, netted 9, and this month is not that. We're just going to say that it's not that. So I'm trying to recover for June. And it is, the struggle is real. It's really tough. And I think that we're going to be able to learn from all of us. And, you know, this is going to be the team leader support group, to where we can all, you know, shut our door and cry if we need to. But anything else before, you know, I don't want to keep, we all got things to do. I want to respect your time. If we don't have any more questions or comments, I would love to, or feedback, I would love to just wrap this up, and then I'll send everybody the recording. All right, going once. Going
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate everybody for being here. Everybody have a fantastic day, and go crush it.